Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into the science of motor skill acquisition and learning, essential elements in sports psychology that can truly elevate athletic performance. We'll explore practice structures, learning techniques, and feedback strategies, all while keeping in mind that each athlete, task, and environment has its unique characteristics. Understanding these can improve not only an athlete's outcomes, but also the effectiveness of those who coach them. First, let's clarify an essential concept: the distinction between learning and performance. Learning, as defined by Schmidt and Lee, is a process that results in a lasting change in the ability to perform a motor skill. Performance, on the other hand, refers to the execution of the skill in a given environment, as noted by McGill. Performance can be influenced by factors such as arousal and motivation, meaning it doesn't always reflect an athlete's underlying skill level, a point discussed by Weinberg and Gould. So, while the techniques we're about to explore can support learning, some may even temporarily impact performance during practice sessions. Practice is, of course, vital to motor skill learning, but challenging practice, not just simple repetition, is what really enables skill acquisition. This is well supported by Schmidt and Lee, who emphasize the importance of structured and varied practice. When teaching a complex motor skill, there's an ongoing debate over whole versus part practice. Whole practice approaches the skill in its entirety, while part practice breaks it into subcomponents. According to Naylor and Briggs, part practice is beneficial for tasks that are complex but have relatively low interrelatedness among components. For instance, the Olympic lift, like the snatch, can be segmented into subcomponents like the first pull, transition, second pull, and catch. In contrast, whole practice tends to be more effective for tasks with the highly interrelated components, such as a lunge, where separating leg movements would disrupt the coordination between the limbs. However, if the skill is dangerous or costly to learn as a whole, then part practice remains the safer choice. If part practice is used, the task can be divided in several ways. Segmentation involves breaking the task into distinct subcomponents, as in dividing the snatch into separate phases. Fractionalization involves isolating parts that happen simultaneously, such as practicing the press motion of the arms and the push motion of the legs independently in a push press, noted by Schmidt and Lee. Simplification adjusts the task difficulty by changing factors like speed or equipment, such as practicing a snatch with a lighter PVC pipe. This approach often combines segmentation and fractionalization. When reintegrating the skill, there are multiple methods to bring the parts back together. Pure part training, or the part whole method, involves practicing each component independently before integrating them. Progressive part training, as suggested by Naylor and Briggs, involves practicing the initial two components together, adding each subsequent part until the entire skill is performed. Another approach, repetitive part training, starts with one component, then sequentially adds each additional part. The choice of method will depend on the skill's complexity and the goals of the training session. So traditionally, skills are practiced in blocks, where the athlete practices the same skill repeatedly before moving to another. In contrast, Random practice incorporates multiple skills in a random order during a session. For example, an athlete might perform a squat depth jump, a lateral depth jump, a split squat jump, and a side-to-side push-off in random succession. Although random practice may initially decrease performance on individual skills, it enhances overall learning, as noted by Schmidt and Reisberg. In sports settings, combining blocked and random practice, practicing a few reps of each skill before rotating, can yield optimal results, as shown by Shea and Morgan. Variable practice, like random practice, introduces variations within a single skill. Rather than practicing a single height for a box jump, the athlete would practice stepping from and jumping to boxes of varying heights. According to Ben Rossum, variable practice might impair performance in the short term but enhances adaptability, allowing athletes to perform skills in different unplanned contexts. This flexibility is essential in sports, as athletes must often respond to unfamiliar environments and opponents. Observational learning, or action observation, is another critical tool in motor skill acquisition. Observing a skill, whether through videos or live demonstrations, can improve learning outcomes. The skill model can be a novice, competent, or expert performer, but combining physical and observational practice tends to yield better results. Sakajian and colleagues found that athletes learning the power clean showed better technique when observational practice supplemented physical practice. Observing allows athletes to refine technique, which is particularly useful in strength and conditioning settings where maintaining safety and proper form is essential. Coaches can enhance learning by tailoring instructions to match the athlete's learning style. Instructional approaches can be categorized into explicit instructions, guided discovery, and discovery. Explicit instructions provide clear step-by-step guidance on performing a skill, such as detailing body positions and joint movements during a squat. Guided discovery, on the other hand, offers an overall goal and key prompts without specific instructions on execution, allowing the athlete some freedom to explore movement patterns. For example, a coach might explain the goal of a squat jump while reminding the athlete to maintain a neutral spine. Discovery instruction involves setting the task's overarching goal with minimal guidance, allowing the athlete to find a way to complete it independently. While discovery-based approaches can delay immediate learning, they promote a deeper understanding and adaptability, as suggested by Vickers. Guided discovery and discovery styles may reduce attentional demands, allowing athletes to focus on task-relevant cues, which is beneficial under pressure. Today's discussion will also break down the types of feedback, their roles, and how they can be effectively used to boost both learning and performance. Intrinsic and augmented feedback. So, let's start by distinguishing between two types of feedback, intrinsic and augmented. Intrinsic feedback is the information an athlete receives from their own senses. For example, if an athlete misses the box during a squat box jump, their sensory experience informs them of this mistake. While intrinsic feedback allows athletes to fine-tune their movements using this internal information to reach the desired movement and task goal. On the other hand, augmented feedback comes from an external source, such as a coach or technology. For example, after a squat box jump, a coach might tell the athlete that their counter movement at the hips was too slow, causing them to miss the jump. Augmented feedback can also come from video analysis or other technological tools that provide additional data on performance. This type of feedback helps athletes understand elements of their performance they might not be aware of, and it provides specific areas for improvement. Within augmented feedback, we have two main types, knowledge of results and knowledge of performance. Knowledge of results gives the athlete information about the success or failure of a task's outcome. For example, a coach might tell an athlete how quickly they completed a T drill and provide comparative information, such as how this time ranks against other athletes. Studies show that positive normative feedback, where the comparison is favorable, enhances skill learning more effectively than negative feedback. Knowledge of performance, in contrast, focuses on the movement pattern itself. This type of feedback could involve the coach using video analysis or specialized lab equipment, like a force plate, to review body positioning or movement efficiency. In the T-drill, a coach might highlight specific elements of the athlete's body position during directional changes. So, when the goal is a proper movement form, as in a power clean, knowledge of results and knowledge of performance often overlap, merging outcome and movement feedback into one cohesive understanding. The timing and frequency of feedback also play crucial roles in learning outcomes. Feedback provided concurrently with the task, that is, during the performance, can improve immediate performance, but may hinder long-term learning. Concurrent feedback can be beneficial in competitive situations where in-the-moment adjustments are critical. However, for skill acquisition, delayed feedback provided after the task has been completed is more effective. This type of feedback allows athletes to process and internalize their performance, supporting long-term learning. Now, let's talk about frequency. For athletes learning a new or complex skill, providing feedback after every attempt can be beneficial in the early stages, but as skill level increases, less frequent feedback is more advantageous, allowing athletes to rely on intrinsic feedback and refine skills independently. Research suggests that constant feedback may improve practice performance, but infrequent feedback helps athletes retain skills better and adapt to different contexts. In summary, feedback can be strategically used to enhance both performance and learning, but it's essential to adjust timing and frequency based on the desired outcome. Concurrent feedback works well for immediate performance improvements, particularly in competitive settings, while delayed and gradually less frequent feedback fosters deeper learning and more durable skills. A well-rounded approach to feedback, rooted in psychological and motor learning principles, is a powerful tool in coaching. Coaches who master the balance between type of practice, intrinsic and augmented feedback, knowledge of results and knowledge of performance, and timing and frequency can help athletes achieve both immediate gains and lasting improvement.